We had been seeing for at least a decade states taking very bold measures to prevent patients from being able to receive abortion care.
I, Brett M. Kavanaugh, do solemnly swear.
After Brett Kavanaugh was appointed, we knew that we were on a slippery slope of really seeing a Supreme Court that was not going to protect reproductive health care and reproductive rights.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I don't think that there was quiet warning signs. I think we all heard pretty explicitly what folks on the Supreme Court intended to do.
The real sentinel moment for me was September 1st when SB 8 went into effect in Texas, and then the next day we were seeing so many patients from Texas. It has been like nothing I've ever experienced in 20 years.
When Texas enacted its Senate Bill 8, there was a rally on the west steps of the Capitol here in Denver, and my constituents really put the challenge to me, and they said, what are y'all gonna do to make sure that that doesn't happen here in Colorado?
We knew that there was nothing on the books in Colorado. Our rights were silent, and we knew that we needed to make sure we could act quickly this legislative session to be sure we were codifying those rights in our statutes.
Some members here in Colorado were rightly so getting nervous, and so they brought the idea to Color and Cobalt. We said, yes, we want to be on board. And so the two orgs, we got together, we got the coalition on board.
About 2 days later, we were on the phone making plans for what ended up being RHEA.
RHEA is our Reproductive Health Equity Act, our protections for folks in Colorado around reproductive rights. It gives people in Colorado the opportunity to refuse or access contraceptives, to refuse or access full reproductive care, including abortion, and it confirms that fetuses, embryos, fertilized eggs do not have separate individual rights.
We were ready to go on day one of our legislative session. There were some folks who were like, it's an election year, maybe we should wait. And we were relentless.
In the end, over 57 organizations signed on in support of RHEA, and every Democratic legislator was either supporting it as a co-sponsor or they were voting on it, and they held all the way through that process.
We knew it was going to pass, but that doesn't mean that the journey was then simple or easy.
We had 14-hour hearings in both the House and the Senate committees, and we had a historical 24-hour debate on the House floor, which I think the Republicans thought were going to intimidate us, but it only proved to just unify us even more.
It was such a long night. I think at one point I went home and slept for 3 hours and came back roughly around 4 or 5 a.m.
Just knowing how long the session was going on and being fearful that that would mean that it would not have a successful outcome, that was pretty agonizing.
After a 14-hour Senate floor fight, filibustering is one thing, but we saw some of the worst politics being played at the Capitol. We also heard some of the best.
I rise in support of this bill.
It was inspirational how members stood up and told a personal story that they had never told before.
I can't tell you how proud I am of my fellow Democratic House members who stood by us for 24 hours, came down and shared their personal connections to abortion, and really stood there to say, we'll be here as long as it takes to make sure we get this passed.
Honestly, the overwhelming support from the members as well as everybody else outside of the building, all night. Then the next morning when everybody realized we were still there, the support, it just enveloped us.
That level of support and camaraderie is more of what we need in our movements, right? How we support each other when things are great is one thing, but how we support each other when things get hard, that to me is really what a movement looks like.
It's officially the law of Colorado.
Watching the governor actually finally put pen to paper will always stand out in my memory as one of my biggest accomplishments in serving the legislature.
It was really incredible. It makes me emotional.
Working in reproductive rights, working in abortion rights, you don't get wins very often. But it was a good day in abortion rights.
I was so thankful and just relieved to know that we are going to be able to take care of patients without a politician sitting in a room next to us telling us what to do.
Our coalition and all of our allies could really celebrate this moment, and to think that that bill signing happened just short of a month before the leak of the Supreme Court opinion on the Dobbs decision.
Now RHEA is our new Roe. Roe was never enough, and now RHEA is our new floor. We've protected the right to abortion in Colorado, but now we need to expand it. It doesn't matter if it's legal if you can't access it.
There are still so many things that we want to work on. The Medicaid funding ban, parental notification, and so we're celebrating our win and we're working to push our state even further.
Without that federal protection, the states are now in huge power positions, and so I worry about keeping a Senate, a House, an Attorney General, all of the leaders in Colorado.
We are always just one bad election away from no longer having our bodily autonomy insured. In a moment when folks are asking how they can help, don't let anybody in your life forget just how important elections are.
I can't possibly overstate how important this is. If we see 26 states go dark, patients are going to be traveling throughout the country, and we will be one place where access is secure. Thank goodness to RHEA, and the deepest of thanks to all 57 organizations that signed on and supported this and made this a reality.
RHEA is one of those brilliant pieces of participatory democracy that demonstrates that not one person controls the fate of the country or for our state. RHEA is an example of bold elected officials, champions, who tirelessly push this forward. It is the result of Cobalt and Color and our coalition partners who came to the table over and over again to think about that language itself. And on behalf of the 100,000 patients that we see every year and the 450 people who work at Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains, I am so grateful and thankful for the passage of RHEA and the collective effort it took to make sure that it was a success.